When we compare the world today to what existed 2,000 years ago, there is evident remarkable evolution in various aspects. We have discovered many things: the automobile, the internet revolution, the ability to cure diseases that were once considered death sentences, the arrival of man on the moon, and the ability to travel long distances in a matter of hours, thanks to the laws of aerodynamics. In Stoicism, there are 4 essential virtues that must be applied. They are known as the 4 Stoic virtues: courage, temperance, justice, wisdom. And, as Marcus Aurelius wrote, if at some point in your life you should encounter something superior to justice, truth, self-control, and courage, it must be something truly extraordinary. But after 20 centuries and with so much technological advancement and an abundance of information, have we found something superior to being courageous, exercising moderation and sobriety, doing what is right, and acting with wisdom? The answer is clear. No, we have not found it, and it is unlikely that we will have that answer someday. What truly defines our worth are our virtues, and everything we face in life becomes an opportunity to demonstrate these 4 Stoic virtues. In this video, we will delve deeper into our analysis of the 4 central virtues of Stoicism, with insights on how to effectively manage your emotions so that you can apply them in your daily life. We will explore practical strategies that will help you incorporate these virtues into your life, allowing you not only to better understand their meaning, but also to know how to integrate them into your daily actions and decisions. In today's busy world, it can be difficult to maintain emotional balance. It is easy to let ourselves be carried away by our feelings and forget that we have the power to make choices about how to react to difficult situations. The Stoics believe that one should strive for virtue through self-control and inner strength. But before we start, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any knowledge, as it could change your life. First virtue, courage. Of all the Stoic virtues, the only one that cannot be feigned is courage. You can pretend to be wise or just. You can even pretend to act with temperance. But sooner or later, you will have to face your problems head-on, and to confront them, you need courage. Courage is not synonymous with recklessness, meaning taking excessive risks, nor is it about never feeling fear, anger, or moments of weakness. Courage is the virtue that allows you to do what is right, despite the circumstances. When we run away, postpone, or deny problems, all we achieve is making them even bigger. A Stoic acts despite the obstacles and turns them into their own path. Courage involves facing your ego, confronting your biases, and approaching the truth. It means acknowledging your mistakes, even when they hurt. It means striving to achieve your goals and admitting what you can change. And to cultivate courage, focus on these 2 things. 1. Work on your sense of responsibility. Think about the things that are under your responsibility and understand what that means. Self-responsibility is the ability or competence to take responsibility for every event, both good and bad, that happens in your life. It takes courage not to shift the blame onto others and to take responsibility for the unfortunate events. 2. Practice courage in your daily life. Be courageous in small actions every day. If you're afraid of public speaking, volunteer to present at the next meeting at work. Challenge yourself. If you aspire to be a professional cook, prepare a new dish and invite your friends and family for a meal. Train your courage daily in small things and in significant situations. You will have the inner strength to be courageous. Second virtue, temperance. Temperance is the human ability not to do anything in excess, doing the right thing, in the right amount, in the right way, and it can be applied in any aspect of your life. But let's focus on the temperance of our emotions. I'll tell you a story. Once a king gathered the wise men of his court and said, "I had a beautiful ring made with a diamond by the finest jeweler in the region. I want to engrave a message inside this ring that will guide me in times of despair and also in times of joy. This ring will benefit my future generations. It must be small enough to fit under the diamond of the ring. All who heard the king's wishes were great sages and scholars, so they began to compose a message that would fit in the ring. But it was a challenging task. They searched their books for hours, but found nothing that met the powerful king's desires. However, the king had a beloved servant near him, a man who had served the crown for a long time and had the king's complete respect, as if he were family. Therefore, the king consulted him, and he said, "I am not a wise or educated man, but I know the message you seek." "How do you know?" asked the king. "During my long life in the palace, I met all kinds of people. Once I met a teacher who was a guest of your father, and I served him. When he left, I accompanied him to the door, and as a gesture of gratitude, he gave me this message." At that moment, the servant wrote the message on paper, folded it, and handed it to the king. He added, "Do not read it. Keep it hidden and open it only when you are in a hopeless situation." And that moment came quickly. The country was invaded, and the kingdom was threatened. The king was fleeing on horseback to save his life, with numerous enemies closing in. He found himself in a hopeless situation. It was then that he remembered the ring. He opened it, took out the piece of paper, and found a tiny message, but tremendously valuable for that moment. It simply said, "This too shall pass." At that instant, he realized that a great silence surrounded him. His hiding place had worked. The pursuers couldn't find him. Deeply grateful to the servant and the unknown teacher, the king realized the miraculous power of those words. He folded the paper, put it back in his pocket, rallied his army, and reclaimed his kingdom. On the day of victory, there was a great celebration in the city, and the king was filled with pride. At that moment, the servant by his side said, "Dear king, it is time to read the message I gave you." "What do you mean?" asked the king. "I am currently experiencing euphoria and joy. People are celebrating my return, and we defeated the enemy." The old man replied, "This message is not only for when you feel defeated, it is also for when you feel victorious. It is not just for when you are last, it is also for when you are first." The king opened the ring and read the message. "This too shall pass." Once again, he felt the same peace and silence amid the crowd, but his pride and ego disappeared. The king finally understood the message. Misfortune is as transient as good fortune. The old man told him, "Remember that everything passes. No event or emotion is permanent, just like day and night. There are moments of joy and moments of sorrow. Accept them as part of the duality of nature, because they are the very nature of things." An important way to deal with our emotions is to understand that what we are feeling now will not last forever. Whether it's an emotion of sadness or immense happiness, it will pass. People who believe that life is made only of happy moments cannot develop mental resilience and strength to face adversity. And those who give in to moments of sadness, yielding to sorrow, become unable to recognize the joy of living. It's important to remember that our feelings change over time. A Stoic does not allow themselves to be dominated by their emotions, whether they are good or bad. Temperance applies to any emotion. No emotion becomes a positive thing when taken to the extreme. However, almost any emotion, when managed in moderation, can bring us something positive, even negative emotions, as they provide valuable lessons for our lives. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, temperance is the virtue that helps us govern and direct our passions and desires, avoiding extremes and maintaining a balanced and moderate life. Third virtue, justice. Justice must be applied in practice, but unlike courage or temperance, justice indicates how we should behave towards others. Justice functions as a compass. It guides us on how to act in the world and with others accordingly. For the Stoics, justice is not necessarily connected to the law, but rather to fulfilling our duty to others and to our society. And how can we learn to act justly? By in our lives, just as I did with the other virtues. I would like to tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a prince who was very unjust. Although he seemed like the perfect prince, handsome, courageous, and intelligent, it appeared that no one had ever explained to the prince what justice was. If two people came to him, arguing about something, he would resolve it by favoring the one who seemed friendlier, more attractive, or who had a better sword. Tired of it all, his father, the king, decided to turn to a wise man to teach his son to be just. "Take him with you, my wise friend," said the king, "and do not return until he is ready to be a just king." The sage and the prince sailed together, but the ship crashed, leaving them stranded on a deserted island, with no food or water. In the early days, the prince, who was an excellent fisherman, managed to catch some fish. When the old sage asked to share the fish, the young prince refused. However, after a few days, the prince's fishing became less successful, while the sage was able to hunt birds almost every day. Just like the prince, the sage did not share his catch. The prince grew thinner and weaker until he finally begged and shouted for the sage to share his food and save him from starvation. "I will only share with you," said the sage, "if you show me the lesson you have learned." The prince, who had learned what the sage was trying to teach, replied, "Justice means sharing what we have equally among all." The sage congratulated him and shared his food. That same night, a ship arrived and rescued them from the island. On the way back, they stopped near a mountain where a man recognized the prince and said, "I am Maxi, the leader of the Maxians. Please help us, for we have a problem with our neighboring people, the Minions. We both share the meat and vegetables we have and always argue about how to distribute them." The prince, now having a better understanding of justice, said, "Count how many of you there are and distribute the food equally in portions according to each person's size." He applied what he had learned from the sage on the island. When the prince suggested this solution, there was applause on the mountain, and a group of very angry men appeared, led by the one who had asked the question. They attacked the prince and made him a prisoner. The prince was confused until they locked him in a cell and said, "You tried to harm our people. If you do not solve the problem by tomorrow morning, you will be imprisoned forever." It turned out that the Minions were small but numerous, while the Maxians were large but in smaller numbers. So the solution proposed by the prince would have starved the Maxians, who would have received minuscule portions. The prince realized the situation and spent the night thinking. When asked the next morning, he said, "Do not distribute equally. Distribute the food based on what each person can eat. Let everyone eat the same number of bites according to their size." Both the Maxians and the Minions were delighted with this solution. After a grand celebration and receiving gold and gifts, they released the prince and the sage. As they walked, the prince said, "I learned something new. It's not about giving the same to everyone. Justice is about distributing things, taking into account each person's different needs." The old sage smiled, satisfied. Near the palace, they stopped in a small village. A very poor-looking man received them and took care of their needs. Another man, who looked equally poor, caught their attention when he threw himself on the ground to beg for alms. Meanwhile, a third man, who appeared very rich, sent two of his servants to attend to their needs. The prince felt so comfortable there that when he left, he decided to give away all the gold he had received from the grateful Maxians. When the Maxians heard this, they rushed to the prince, the poor, the beggar, and the rich man, each claiming their share. The sage asked, "How will you distribute it?" The prince, now with a deeper understanding of justice, hesitated. It was clear to him what the sage meant. The wealthy man had to support his servants and treated them well. So the prince made 3 piles, a large one for the poor man who served them selflessly, a medium one for the rich man, as he had no significant needs, and a small one for the beggar, who had done nothing to deserve a reward. As they bid farewell and continued their journey to the palace, the sage asked, "Tell me, young prince, what is justice to you now?" The prince replied, "To me, justice means distributing things while considering the needs and merits of each person. That's why I gave the largest pile to the poor man who served us well, the medium pile to the wealthy man who sent 2 of his servants but had no great needs, and the smallest pile to the beggar because he had done nothing to deserve it. The prince concluded. Then the old sage embraced him and said, "I believe you will become a great king." And he was right. From that moment on, the prince became famous throughout the kingdom for his justice and wisdom. Everyone celebrated his ascent to the throne. Years later, King Lapio became remembered as the best ruler the kingdom ever had. From this story, we can draw a great lesson. Many people think that being just means giving the same thing to everyone. In reality, justice means giving each person what they need, provided they have earned it. Acting in this way helps us become good citizens, work as a team, nurture our relationships, refrain from seeking revenge, and act with integrity. For the Stoics, justice is based on 2 fundamental principles. First, the just person does not harm anyone unless unjustly provoked. There is a significant difference between harming someone out of desire and doing so in self-defense. The former is an unjust action, while the latter is just. Second, the just person uses common goods as common and private goods as private, meaning to use things according to their nature. These 2 principles, along with the lesson from the previous story, form the basis for virtuous interactions with other people and achieving harmony in society. It is also essential to understand that people are not tools for our lives. We help others because it is the right thing to do, not because we expect something in return. Practicing justice means treating others as we would like to be treated and fulfilling our responsibilities to others. In summary, give others what they need and deserve, avoid causing unjust harm to others, and respect public and private property. 4th virtue, wisdom. What is the right thing to do and when should we act? This is where the final and essential virtue comes in. Wisdom, knowledge, learning. The necessary experience to provide a solid foundation for our Stoic behaviors, to understand why we do what we do. Quoting Marcus Aurelius, "None of our actions should be done without justification." You're probably wondering, what is wisdom and how can I apply it in my life? Stoic wisdom is the ability to understand the world rationally. This means trying to understand our surroundings, setting aside our own biases and preconceived ideas. Moreover, it involves learning from our experiences, reflecting on our actions, and using our understanding of things to tackle life's challenges with clarity and inner strength. Wisdom has always been highly valued by Stoics. Zeno of Citium, the founder of this philosophy, said that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason: to listen more than we speak. The act of listening provides us with learning, while speaking teaches us nothing. These words from Epictetus, like those of Zeno, encourage us to strive for learning, to achieve a rational understanding of the world. It is essential to keep our minds open. "You cannot learn what you think you already know," said Epictetus. Stoics accomplished 2 fundamental tasks to live wisely. 1. Distinguish between what is good, what is bad, and what is indifferent. 2. Differentiate between what is under our control and what is not, a concept known as the dichotomy of control. Stoics divided their lives into 3 possible categories: the good, the bad, and the indifferent. Their goal was to preserve what is good, eliminate what is bad, and, as for what is indifferent, we will delve deeper into that. For Stoics, the good consists of everything that helps us live virtuously, like practicing moderation in the face of desires, acting justly towards others, or fulfilling our duties even when we feel fear. These actions are considered good because they guide us on the path of virtue. On the other hand, the bad encompasses anything that takes us away from virtue, including vices, laziness, greed, lies, or the loss of a sense of personal responsibility. These actions are harmful because they divert us from the path of virtue. Stoicism is aware that before trying to fix the world, it is more important to develop an independent moral compass. Stoics considered indifference to be anything that could be used for both good and bad, depending on how we handle them. For example, consider money or fame. They are not automatically good or bad, but rather tools that can be used in different ways. What truly stood out was that Stoics maintained a sense of serenity regarding things like wealth, fame, pain, or success. It's not that they didn't care about these things, but they didn't let them determine their happiness. The important lesson here is that they didn't put all their chips on these indifference. For Stoics, the key to a fulfilling and happy life was to act virtuously and eliminate evil. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, reflected deeply on wealth and how a Stoic should approach it. In his words, "For the wise man, it makes no difference which of the two he does both. If he loses, he does so with dignity. If he wins, he does so with moderation." So how do we apply wisdom in our daily lives? It is mainly about fulfilling the two Stoic tasks to live wisely. But we should apply it to everything we do. The first step is to identify what is under our control and what is not. For example, the loud noise from my neighbor all day is not under my control. But how I react to this stress is. What people think of me is not under my control. What I think about myself is. After separating what we can control from what we cannot, we need to focus our attention on what is under our control. We need to assess whether our actions fall into the categories of good, bad, or indifferent. If our response indicates that an action under our control is bad, we should rethink it. If it is considered good, we are acting correctly. As for the indifferent, we must remember that indifference should guide us towards the good, not the bad. In summary, Stoic wisdom lies in distinguishing between what we control and what is beyond our control, as well as between good, bad, and indifferent. This wisdom guides our actions, decisions, and relationships, allowing us to lead a morally upright and exceptional personal life. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, "Wisdom is the art of accepting what cannot be changed, of changing what can be changed, and of discerning the difference." And if you like this content, don't forget to share it with someone who might need it. Help us spread this amazing knowledge. Now, if you want to understand a bit more about Stoicism, just click on one of the videos that's appearing on your screen. Thank you for watching.